I need to come visit you. You have two bookstores
Yep, I have one in Tampa and one in Deerfield.
and a subscription box and more. So tell me where this all started to where you are now.
Yeah, it all started with a subscription box. During the pandemic, I was working at a different job and I was in California, and the pandemic looked a lot different in California than it did in Florida. So I was just trying to figure out like what I can keep myself occupied with. I was a big reader of romance and just a reader in general, and I really started to lean to romance heavily during that time. And I was like just chatting with a friend, and I was like, what, like, someone should really pair romance books with like vibrators and like sexual wellness items and just make it like a self-care kit. And she was like, why don't you do it? And I was like, I don't know. So I just started looking into it and doing my research and started packing boxes from my kitchen, and that's how we got started.
You started with the box. How did you
Mhm.
get your first subscribers? What was your marketing like when you had that idea and you were like, okay, I'll go out with this?
Yeah, I started doing a lot of just like Instagram, like posting outreach. At that time, I was a book reviewer. So I had some connections within the book world, and that community like really supported me as I was like getting started. So a lot of it came from that, just like organic word of mouth. And that's how we got like our first subscribers for the box.
How much is the subscription? Is it a once a month thing? And what all comes in the box?
Yeah, so it's a quarterly subscription. It comes with three books and just different self-care items, including a sexual wellness item. The tiers depend on what you pick. So we have a book-only tier, then we have the books with just the wellness, the self-love, self-care items, and then we have the top tier, which comes with like the vibrator and the rest of the items.
Do you pay for these items wholesale or do the brands gift some of them to you for promotion? How does that work as far as sourcing the materials for the boxes?
Yeah, most of it is wholesale. We've had a few instances where folks want to send us like vibrators for the box to gift and things like that, but most of the time it's all wholesale.
So you started this during COVID
Hmm.
with just a box, and now you have two brick and mortar, like physical bookstores, one where you live, one where you don't live. How did that all come about? Because I also know I've spoken to a couple bookstore owners on the podcast.
Hmm.
It's hard to be profitable with a bookstore if you only focus on selling books. So I'm assuming you obviously sell more than books.
Yeah, we have our own merch. We have a whole like line of apparel called Sav Apparel, which is all like book inspired merch. So we do a lot of like hats, t-shirts, tote bags, stickers, things like that. But we also specialize in special editions, which is I think what separates us from, I want to say, all other bookstores. I don't think for the most part, there's very few that have their own special editions. And we work directly with the publisher or the author to create our own special edition of books that can only be found through us. So I think that's really where we stand out, in that there's certain books that you can only get through us. But how we got here, I don't know, God. So the box kind of took off, and then it started building its own community. And then around that, I was also starting to do like meetups if I like traveled to the book convention or something, doing like author chats on our like Instagram live and like really just building community through that. Then we started doing pop-ups in San Diego, the LA Times Festival of Books, where we were really just like selling back stock of items that we had in the box before, maybe some new items, and then building our online bookstore like that little by little. And then this is when I was in California. And then I moved back to South Florida, and this was the first year of Steamy Lit which is a romance book convention that we run through our Steamy Lit Foundation. And this is also takes place in California. And I was getting through the first year of that. And the first thing I did when I moved to South Florida was like bookstores near me. And aside from like Books and Books down in Miami and like Barnes and Noble, maybe a Books a Million here and there, there's really not a lot. And so I was like, there seems to be maybe an opportunity for this here. Obviously, I was familiar with the Rip Bodice and Meet Cute Bookshop in San Diego. And so I knew that the romance genre bookstore like does well. And it's obviously my niche and what I specialize in. And at the time, there weren't any in Florida. So I was like, let me give it a go and see what happens. And the Deerfield location just fell in my lap. I was looking around my neighborhood, seeing like what could work, what couldn't. And this was open. It was available immediately as far as lease terms, like everything worked out really well. So we decided to move forward with it.
How long have you had this store in Deerfield? And then tell me about the Tampa location.
So Deerfield I've had since the end of 2023. And Tampa, so we started doing pop-ups after Deerfield around the state. We did Orlando, Gainesville, Tampa, Miami, and really there was like nothing more than like just doing pop-ups. And Tampa responded really well. So we were doing pop-ups at Blind Tiger Coffee in Tampa, and we did them like every month, and people were showing up every month. They were excited for book club. Like it really seemed like something that folks wanted to participate in. And my partner lived in Tampa at the time. I spent time there, and I really loved it. It reminds me a lot of San Diego. And again, this kind of opportunity fell in my lap. I met another shop owner that owns it's a gift shop, but they specialize in just carrying products that are by small women-owned businesses, like handmade earrings and soaps and all of these things. And she asked me if I was interested in taking over half the space to test out the market. And I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Like the pop-ups already had responded so well that we were like, yeah, I think that this would be great to really see if we can find a home here. And 3 months later, we've taken over the full space and taken over the lease, and it's doing really great.
That is amazing. What is
Yeah.
that? Help me envision what a pop-up looks like. Is that you like wheeling in a bunch of shelves and books? How do you promote that as well to get people there to see how they're
Yeah.
going to react?
Yeah, basically we roll in some bookshelves, some tables, merchandise products, and we just take over like a corner of the restaurant or wherever it is that we're doing it. We usually partner with, like in this case, Blind Tiger. We would cross promote that we would be there and just really used social media, TikTok, Instagram to let people know that we were there.
Are TikTok and Instagram like your biggest generator of traffic online and in person? Because you talked about the subscription box taking off, and that's what led to the bookstore. Is it that kind of awareness on social media, or is there anything else that you used? And if it was social media, here, I'm just going to hit you with 10 questions at once. And if it was social media, what do you credit? Is it like being super niche, or is it the kind of content you would post? Break all of that down.
Yeah, so it's interesting because we do a little bit of everything as far as content wise. Definitely would say Instagram and TikTok. I think there's more virality in Instagram now than there was before. But TikTok, honestly, when I would just make videos like, hey, this is who I am, and I'm at the bookstore and I own this bookstore, those would do really well and would catch the right traffic. And then as far as Instagram, yeah, like we had built our community there. Both platforms are what has really helped us. I don't know if it's that we are niche. Like I mentioned, we also do special edition. So I think that brings a lot of viewership to us. But like our mission is to celebrate diversity and romance. So there's like an added caveat to our mission that like we really focus on BIPOC and underrepresented stories in publishing when it comes to the romance genre. And so, like, a lot of our focus is that. And I think that makes us stand out from others.
Anything you would say to somebody who wants to start a bookish business, whether that be a subscription box, they just want to do pop-ups, maybe they want their own bookstore. What would you say to that person?
Do your research. Do your research. I think we get this a lot. Like, I probably get at least one inquiry a week of someone who wants to like do something similar or do their own thing and they want to chat with us. And I am all for having these conversations, but more often than not, people are not coming to the conversation with anything. They have not done any research, how to order, where they order from, nothing. And so it's disheartening when you are coming into a conversation and there's no like labor done on your end for a business that you want. So I think that like really it's good to have questions because you're going to read a bunch of stuff that doesn't even make sense. But then there's a different conversation that is had when you're very specific about, I read these are the places that I can order for. from, can you break that down for me? Versus, I have no idea how to order books. How do I do that? You're telling me where you're at and how much labor you want me to do for you. I think the other part to think about, and this is for anyone like monetizing their hobby, is that's not going to be your hobby anymore. That's going to be work now. And I think that's something that you really need to think about. It's definitely not something that I did. I don't know that I would have done things any differently, but now, before you were in the reader space, right? Now you're in the business space where like authors and publishers and artists are your peers. They're not like just someone who provides a service to you, right? And so you have to act accordingly in that, but also now you're reading for work, right? And so there is an added, like, from time to time, I'm still reading for pleasure per se, but most of the time, and it's not that I'm not enjoying what I'm reading. Obviously, I love reading romance. So, like, reading is reading, but now there's like a different pressure of I'm reading because I need to figure out what books are going in the box, or I'm reading because, like, I just want to read this and there's no pressure attached to it. And I think sometimes we don't talk about that enough, like how it affects you, especially when it's something that is so ingrained in who you are. So it's definitely something to like think about and consider. There's pros and cons like with anything else, but I think sometimes we're just like so passionate about it that we're like, let's go in, and then once you're in, you're like, oh, like I don't even have time to read anymore. So if those things are really important to you, is figuring out how maybe you can make time for it as you grow your business, or maybe the business is more of a priority than what your like pleasure sense of it is. But I don't think we talk about it enough.
I can totally see that. You almost have to make a mindset shift to say, okay, remember this is fun. You started this because it's fun. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to make this new business venture miserable, because I can see that happening very easily. There's going to be
Right.
a thin line there. What's next for you? You started with the subscription box, you have merch, you have multiple bookstores, you have the foundation. Can you tell me about the foundation? You mentioned it, but what is that?
Yeah. Yeah, so our foundation is our nonprofit side of the business, and its goal is to be able to remove barriers to entry for BIPOC authors into publishing. And so we started that through Steamy Lit, which is our romance book convention in Anaheim, and we also have an author programming side to it in partnership with Adriana Herrera, who's a romance author, and that is like our craft section of the foundation. But overall, we're doing these things to raise money so that if folks need to apply for a scholarship to go to a convention or pay for editing for their book, so many of these things are like costly, and sometimes we just don't have the money for them. So we want to make sure that we're able to provide that. So slowly but surely, we're like growing the funding there and figuring out different ways in which we can do that. As far as what's next, so this is our last year in California for the conventions. As I mentioned, I lived in California, so now it's doesn't make sense for them to continue in California, so we want to move them over here. Miami is in the horizon for us as far as another storefront. I would love to be my own publishing house one day, and I hope that's sooner than later, but we'll build up to that.
Okay. And then for another location, I'm just going to throw out Palm Beach County up here with me. Come to
Yeah, so
Wellington,
yeah.
somewhere
So that's
around here. We do have a few local stores, but they're all in Palm Beach, like the island.
So we are actually, so my goal is to have a Dade County, a Broward County, and a Palm Beach County location. I think once we get Miami open, Deerfield would probably end up moving to a more like central Broward location, and then we would open a Palm Beach location. I love the Del Rey downtown area. It's like my favorite. Yeah, but I'm also, me and my partner, we have three dogs. Like eventually we're gonna have kids, and so like where we're at right now, we're eventually going to outgrow. So we're thinking of maybe like moving more Palm Beach County. Del Rey is where I have my eyes set because it's like the area I'm most familiar with, but I would definitely love to have like one in each county.
Okay, good. Selfishly, I made that request, and look,
Yeah.
you're already delivering.
Yeah.
So, Steamy Lit, I translate that in my mind to smut. And I have been very focused on thrillers and mysteries for years. And I've slowly started getting into more romance. I just finished the third book in the Twisted Love series. That's very steamy. Loved it, obsessed. And then I'm probably going to finish it today. The Abby Jimenez trilogy with Part of Your World,
Hmm.
Truly, and then I forget what the third one's called. But again, so good. Obsessed.
Yeah.
I am getting like, I am loving these steamier, spicy, smutty reads. So like what you are offering, I feel like it's also either I'm just late to the game and I'm just seeing all of this on TikTok and Instagram, or this is like a new resurgence of steamy literature.
Yeah, so romance has been the best-selling genre for some time now. But I think that with TikTok and Instagram, and I think maybe we're getting more of a younger readership too. I think that people are just being more vocal about it. So I think it's more in your face now than it used to be, which I think is so great because for so long romance has been this like genre that's like less than or shamed, right? Because it's not serious when some of the best books I have read have been in the romance genre. So I think that we're just seeing more people being like, oh, I'm reading my smut and I'm proud and happy about it, and you should read it too, than we were before. And I think it's fabulous.
I also think because we've seen like quite the crazy explosion of the ACOTAR series and Fourth Wing. I haven't read Fourth Wing yet. I did do ACOTAR, and I have seen people just like being obsessed with the sex scenes with these fairies and ACOTAR, and then they're
Mhm.
like, "Ooh, I want more. I want more of this."
Yeah.
So it's so good for the steamy romance genre. Tell me what book you are currently reading and the last best book you read.
The last best book I read is August Lane by Regina Black. It comes out sometime this year. It's two Black country stars. It's a second chance romance. It's fantastic. I think if you liked the Cowboy Carter album, I think this is going to be absolutely your jam. And what am I currently reading?
I love that
It's
you
a
just put a playlist to the book.
Yeah, it's a romantasy that is coming out this year as well. Our Vicious Oaths by Annie Davenport. And it's a romantasy. I think it's coming out maybe this fall, but that's what I'm reading right now. And it's really good so far. But something about me is that when I start reading romantasy, like I get so hooked in it that like you're not gonna see me for a couple of days. So I've been treading carefully because like I have stuff to do, and otherwise I'm gonna be like, I'm taking the day to read because I need to finish this.
That's so funny. Yeah. That's why audiobooks for me have become I'm always reading a physical book and then doing an audiobook. And I'll take like my time doing the laundry and doing my hair and makeup because I'm
Yeah.
listening to my book while I'm doing it. It's like motivation to actually get things done because you can't just listen to a book and do nothing. You have to
Yeah.
be doing something. Okay, so
Yeah.
you've given us something to look forward to because those are advanced copies that you have. So we need
Yep.
to add those to our list of books to read.